Hello, once again I've got myself some coffee here, and I've got a quick little story here. I'm going to talk about the time that I moved into this apartment. I had moved in here about 4 years ago, and the place I used to live in before this place was an income-based apartment, and I moved in there because at the time I was living with some people, and I didn't have much money. I couldn't afford to live in a regular apartment, which was going to be $350 to $450 a month. Because at the time I did not have that much money. I didn't have much money saved because I had already undergone some knee surgeries, and so the money that I did have, I had to spend on a lot of expenses. So I had to move out, and I moved out of that place and moved into here. Now, during that move, I had to move everything by myself, which would be my kitchen table, my big standing upright freezer that I have, and my two huge tables that I have here. Well, actually, that was later on. I got these tables later on, now that I think about it. So it was my the big freezer I have, and then it was my kitchen table, my bed, all of my other stuff, all of my art supplies. There's another kitchen table that I have over there. There's a table there. This here, which you can see right there beside me. All of that. All my blankets and clothes and pillows, shoes. Just all little tiny things here and there. And also my dressers. So my apartment is an upstairs apartment. And when I moved in here, it was in the winter. And my front steps are spiral steps. And to get up them, I can't really fit anything going up the steps because of the spiral staircase and the way the wall is and the staircase. I don't have the room to carry anything, so I had to go up the steps in the side of my apartment, and it's winter time, and these steps are covered in ice. So then I had to make many trips from the place that I was living in to this when I was moving in. I didn't use a U-Haul. At the time, I had this little truck, and it didn't have very big of a bed in it. I couldn't really carry that many things. So I had to take like 50 or 60 trips back and forth between the two places to get everything, because I couldn't let everything just sit out in the truck for too long in the cold, because some of the things I was carrying was electronics, art supplies, things that could not get wet or covered in snow, or things that can't freeze. And the truck, it was just the bed of the truck and then two front seats. There wasn't much room, so I couldn't put a whole lot in the front seats either. Oh, it tastes good. But so I didn't have much room in the truck. I couldn't fit a lot of things in there. And as I said, I couldn't leave things in the back of the truck. I couldn't let things get wet or cold. And so I had to make a lot more trips because I couldn't carry as much during each trip. Because if I did, it would be sitting out there a while because I'm trying to get things into this apartment, and they would just freeze or get wet or cold. So I had to make a lot of trips over and over. Now the steps I was going up, that was a problem because I had to, I think it's maybe about 16 feet or so up. Yeah, it's at least 16 feet of steps I have to go up. And possibly 16 to 20 feet. And the steps are pretty old, and some of them that I step on are a bit creaky, and I wasn't sure if the steps were going to break, but I had no other way to get my stuff in here. So after I got all the small things in here that I could, I then moved into getting all of my big furniture items in here. At the time, I did have this old couch, which I did get rid of about maybe a year and a half ago, possibly 2 years ago. I got rid of that couch. Might have been 2 years ago, but I had to move that in, and my freezer and my kitchen table and all that. Now going up the steps, carrying my dresser, which weighs a couple of 100 pounds, by myself in the winter on these creaky boards that I don't know if they're going to break, was a bit of a concern to me, especially since I had recently had knee surgeries a couple years before that, about 2.5 years before this. And yeah, I was kind of worried about that because of carrying all that weight, and the steps were icy and it was freezing cold out. I couldn't feel my hands when I was lifting and carrying things. And so I remember going up the steps carrying the dresser, and I was near the top. And I had this problem to where I had to take the dresser, and instead of holding it in front of me, I had to pick it up, push it over my head while standing on one of the last steps, and then turn so I can walk into the apartment. Because, like, imagine the steps are going this way, okay, upwards. And then at the very top, you have maybe 3 feet here, or 2.5 feet, where it just goes over right there, and right there's a door. And so I don't really have much room to turn. And the door that's here, okay, opens this direction. And so I can't put things up on the ledge and out that way because the door is going to be in the way. And so I had to pick it up over my head and then push the door open with my foot, and then turn around the other direction, set the dresser on the edge of the steps, which is just on the railing of it. And then I had to hold that with one arm and then turn around carefully, try to open the door, push it open, and then come back, lift it up over my head, slowly turn around, and then angle it to get it inside the apartment. And then I had to do that for my kitchen table. And then once I got the kitchen table in my apartment, I actually had to take it apart because there's 3 sections to it. There's a middle section and the 2 ends. It's like a round table, but when you add the centerpiece, it's kind of oblong. And that I had to take apart before I could even actually get it into my apartment around the corners. Because the center of my apartment, there's like a kitchen, there's a center, and this is the hallway there coming into the big steps. And then here's my living room, and then over here is my bedroom. And so then I had to get in my other dresser, and then my bed. And I think the most difficult thing probably would have been the dresser that I have is a big oak dresser, and the freezer, and the kitchen table, because the kitchen table has some weight to it. And so I get up the steps, put that in there, and I had to make some more trips again the next day. I was doing this all day after work for like a week, and my leg was pretty tired and wore out, and I was really worried about the ice. And I think the dresser was like the last day when I was moving in here, getting everything in here. The dresser came in. I did that last, and it happened. There was just a whole bunch of ice out that day, so I got everything in here, most of everything, and then I had already signed everything for me to move in here, and the other apartment I was in, I was in the process of moving out. So it was like didn't own it. I was renting this place already, but I still had another apartment. So I had 2 apartments. And what was weird is for like the first, I might have been moving in here for like 2 weeks. Now I think about it, because it was kind of a last minute choice I made. I didn't really have this planned, and somewhat planned, but like I was planned on moving, but I didn't have a place selected yet. And so I had decided to move in here and had to rush getting everything packed and everything ready. And then it was just a lot of trips getting everything in here. And trying to remember the point I was at, what I was saying. Enjoying my drink too much, but yeah. Oh, I remember. It took me like 2 weeks to move in here, And what was weird is when I had the two different apartments, I had at first all my stuff at the original place, and I was slowly moving things to the newer place. But I kept my bed at the place I was moving from. And then I got to the point where most of my stuff was at this place, but my bed was still at the other place. And so was my fridge and everything. So I was like, what am I going to do? So I remember the one day I got my bed over here, and it was like 3 in the morning. I had been moving stuff in. It was freezing cold out. And I got my bed in here, laid it down. I was getting ready to go to bed, and I realized I hadn't even ate it all that day hardly. I was hungry. But all that was left back at the other place was food and my fridge. And so I was like, oh no, I could go back there, but how am I going to do this? So I had to turn on the fridge and freezer here, let the temperature get down cold, and then the next day, after work, I went to the other place that night, got all the food, and then put it in this fridge and freezer. And I found a lot of stuff that I didn't know I had in my freezer that I should have gotten rid of. And it was like old frozen meats and chicken and all that. And then I finally got moved out of there. And I did have this huge board. I think it was like maybe 12 feet by like 5 feet. And I was going to do a huge drawing on it. I had started it, but I had bought this board like a couple months before I moved. And I was working on a big drawing on it. And then this board was so heavy. And I don't know how much it weighed, but it was extremely heavy. And the length of it made it awkward to carry. And I was so wore out from moving everything. I was like, how am I going to do this? Because I could barely get that thing in my apartment at floor level. Well, it's almost floor level. It was like you had to go down maybe like 5 little steps to get to the apartment that I used to live in before this. I struggled getting it in there. And I'm like, how am I going to get it up 16, 20, or 20 feet or so steps in the winter when it's snowing and freezing out? So I decided to just leave it there. And I got everything moved in here. And then I was freezing cold when I moved in here. I didn't have any heating or anything yet. And it wasn't until like 2018 that I even decided to buy myself a little heater. I don't know why it went so long. But yeah, it wasn't until way later on that I bought myself a little heater. And so then I was freezing cold the first week. And the gas stove that I have, all the pilot lights were out on it. But the gas line seemed like it was on a little bit slightly. And so I checked that, and I was like, okay, I need to open all of my windows first. So I opened all of my windows, let it air out for like 2 days, and then I turned the gas on, lit the pilot lights. And then the gas stove, just having the pilot lights on, kept my most of my apartment warm. Well, it was mostly just the kitchen. And so I would sleep like in the floor, just over there, beside the kitchen. And a couple of times I actually slept by the kitchen table. And that was the only warm room at the time. And then after maybe another week or so, I finished getting everything in here and organized, and got my bed ready, got moved in. The place I lived at before this, it didn't have any, I had no yard, I had no porch, it was just one little apartment, and there was like a whole bunch of other apartments beside me. There was an apartment beside me, behind me, above me, in front of me, and diagonal from me. So it was like this huge complex of apartments. I didn't like it there. I had this, there was a window in my bedroom and a window in my living room. But in front of my windows was like 12-foot, gigantically tall. They had to have been taller than that even. Probably as high as these steps, just about, it seems like. But they were really tall bushes right in front of both of my windows, all the way down. And it was like these bushes they had in front of this entire complex to divide the complex from everybody else's houses. And I didn't really get much sunlight then, which made me feel depressed. And I had nothing to look at but just some big bushes. It's pretty boring. And now I have a yard, a porch, and a lot more windows. Although I don't really use the porch or the yard all that much at all, because I like to just keep to myself and work on things. But it'll be really nice one day to live like out somewhere or have my own place, so that I don't live in the same building as someone, and a place that is close to a decent sized city, so there's a lot to do, but also not in the city, if that makes any sense. Kind of like, not really a suburb, but so I wouldn't want to live in a metropolitan, and I really wouldn't want to live in a suburb. Even like where I live now is kind of like a small suburb. And I would like to live kind of out in the country, but just like maybe a mile away, like 2 miles away from the city or suburbs, just a couple of miles, so that I can just drive there and do things if I want to, and then drive back, and I can just be by myself, do my own thing, and not have to worry about all the traffic and all the noises and whatnot. So yeah, hopefully one day we'll see. Maybe I could have my own place that I don't have to worry about all those issues. Although I don't even know where I would live or move to. But I'm still pretty young. I'm only 29, but it's like a lot of time's gone by that I could have done other things, but life happens, things happen, and here I am. But yeah, the move, it was a lot of work, and normally I probably would have done this maybe in the like summer or late spring, but I just had to do it at that time. And so then I moved in here, and been living here now ever since, and I don't mind it. The only problem is the neighbors across from me drive in and out of their driveway like 500 times a day, and they're always yelling at each other, and people are always playing music. There's always a dog barking, which is annoying. So I don't know, maybe I'll move out of here, and if I do, it probably won't be too far. It wouldn't be out of state or anything, obviously, but because it means it's cheaper living here, so there's that. But if I do, it'll probably be somewhere close. And so far, it hasn't been too bad. Other than that, that's been more recent. The past like year and a half, I've dealt with all the louder noises. But yep, mostly just the big drawing rooms that I use for doing my doodles and reviews and all that. But yeah, and I do have like a little shed. It's kind of a shared shed that's out back. I don't use it for anything really. And my rent's not that bad, so that's mainly why I stayed here. But we'll see what happens and how things go. Well, I'm gonna go work on some things and think of some other stories I can talk about for some other future videos. But I'm gonna go work on some things, finish this up. It's decaf coffee with milk, so doesn't taste too bad. Did I mention why I don't drink regular coffee? It's because it makes me way too hyper. Like if I have 1 cup of coffee, I won't be able to sleep all day. Like for me, a cup is like actual. Well, it depends. Like I think sometimes when people think of a cup, do they think of a whole cup full, or do they think of an actual measured cup? Because when I think of a cup, I think of like just a regular size cup, like this being a 1 cup of coffee. Yeah, this full of coffee, like regular coffee, caffeinated, I wouldn't sleep for a whole day. And I would feel extremely hyper, and then my chest would feel weird. So that's why I drink decaf. And if I even once just a tiny bit of caffeine, I'll just drink some tea. So get the health benefits and don't have to worry about being super hyper, way too hyper. But yeah, I'm gonna work on some things and probably work on some doodles. But yeah, until then, just let me know what you think in the comments below if you have any questions or any stories about when you moved. And until then, like the video, subscribe to the channel, share it with a friend, and wherever you are, have a good day, have a good night, and I will see you. Hope I can't put my webcam. I'll see you in the next video. See you later.